There's magic in the mundane, bliss in the banal. The day is your dharma. I'm your host, Amaryllis, Ayurvedic health counselor, yogini, and Akashic Records reader, and this is your life altered. Hi, magical beings. I wanted to say thank you for your responses from last week's episode. It was really interesting to get feedback and messages from you, especially about, not just about the holidays, but I had posed an interesting thought that something that occurred to me is it propaganda? Was this somehow created to keep us busy through a time when we would naturally be tuning in and quiet and honing into our own selves? And lots of you responded with either support, because I also posted about this on Instagram. So you had messaged or emailed saying, yes, I've actually thought about this too, or saying, I've never even considered it. I'm actually going to give this some thought. So thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the responses. It's always nice to hear how things are landing with people. So speaking of which, it's a quiet time. We're approaching the solstice. I'm recording this on Monday morning. It's December the 13th, and I was spent yesterday kind of in ritual and ceremony as a day of prayer. It was 12, 12, 21. So all those threes and the month of three, it just, it felt like a very auspicious time. So it was a quiet and reflective day spent with a lot of ritual ceremony and meditation, yoga, whatnot. And, we're in this time of entering winter and this time of quiet, but also this time of gathering and celebration and a time of darkness, of going within. The solstice is coming up next week, and I'm going to be doing all that I can before then to really tap into that energy of the solstice, because I'm going to be traveling. If you listened to the podcast last week, you know that I'm going to be flying to South Carolina. Very excited about that, to spend beautiful time with beautiful people. But this is also the time when I spend a lot of reflection on the past year. So I'm going to be doing that right after the holiday, reviewing all the things from the past year and what am I calling forth in the new year. So I'm definitely going to have podcast episodes about this coming up. It's going to be after the holidays. It's going to be maybe a series. I'm not sure, or maybe just one big long podcast. We'll see how it works out. But stay tuned for that, because I've had a process for at least the past couple of years that has served me well. And, the past couple of years have been different for sure, but it still serves well for reflection and moving forth into the new year. And by all means, there's no rush to have it all done and finished and new intentions and moving forth come, I almost said September 1st, January 1st. There's no rush to have it all done by then. Actually, that's more of when I started. I'm still in a process, usually from about the solstice until, I want to say, the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year really is my time frame. But usually before the New Year, I've already had created intentions that I'm going to be calling forth for the year ahead. So all this to say that I'm going to have an upcoming episode, probably in another couple of days, about the solstice and ways to celebrate and to sit in ceremony with the solstice, if that's not something you've ever done before. And it's nothing big or elaborate. It's simply attuning to what's happening for the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. And also stay tuned for what's to come about calling in the new year for yourself. And with all of that, I wanted to talk about, surprisingly, something that I've never mentioned on the podcast, which is altered. It's the name of the podcast. It's the title under which I operate now all of my services and products. P.S. There's been a soft launch for the altered elixirs. You can check out the website if you're interested. Again, very soft launch if you are interested and would like one. Please connect with me, check out the website. So, altered. I do a little intro in the podcast about what it is and how I see it, but I've never really spoken about this and kind of where it came from. And I wanted to talk about this practice that I've had for it's been 2 years now. So it all started in December of 2019, pre-pandemic, and it landed one day. It just kind of came to me. I had sat in ceremony with some ceremonial cacao and was just really enjoying sitting in that space. And I went for a walk down in the nature area behind my apartment, and it was a download. I don't know if you've ever received any of those, but it was just this instantaneous download and a voice that said, altered, at the altar of your life. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, what is that? Like, what does that mean? What does that look like if I alter my life? And so it's this word, this phrase that I've been operating under for the past couple of years. And it served me well, especially navigating the pandemic and all the loss that came with that. And I wanted to share what that is. I know that I've put out a little bit on Instagram a while back, but really to speak it and to share it on this podcast so that you could listen to it time and again as needed to remind you that you can alter, ALTAR, your life. What quickly followed after I heard and downloaded that message of alter at the altar of your own life is kind of these combinations of things, heaven and earth, the magic and the mundane, the bliss and the banal, the ritual and the routine, and that the day is your dharma. And that in and of itself was quite a lot for the time period of about a year and a half to really sink into that and start living in alignment with that. But then once I learned about kind of extra dimensional beings and communities of star seeds, I suddenly realized, and that was this past April, and I have done a podcast on that, so you're welcome to listen to that about star seeds of the planet. So once I learned about that, I also realized it's about altering your human life. And so I'm speaking directly to the star seeds here. It's about elevating your experience as a human, because if you came from somewhere that, well, pretty much anywhere that you come from is going to be a higher frequency and a higher dimension than Earth. Earth is a really lower dimension, and so it's heavy, it's dense, it's slow. So it can be hard for the starseeds to be here, understandably so, but it's about coming to the altar of your human life so that you can live the best human life, because in a previous podcast I'd also said you chose to come here and you chose this. And when you start to alter this human existence, you actually begin to have this incredible human experience that's beyond what the average person experiences, and it also helps you tap in and tune in to that cosmic wisdom that you're bringing. For the star seeds, it's knowing that you're from another galaxy or beyond and appreciating and savoring human life, humanity, the human form. And it's knowing that you are a solar system in a cell. There is the bigness and the minutia all at once that both exist simultaneously. And there was a quote that I once read, came across somewhere on Instagram, and I wrote it down, but I cannot find where it's from. So I can't give appropriate credit here, but it said, "We are the altar. Our thoughts and words are the magic. We are the magic." And, I'd already found this phrase of altered living, and I just resonate with it so much, that we are the altar and that we are here to live in an altered experience. Not altered. We might sometimes through medicines, plant medicines, be it everything from ayahuasca to marijuana to chamomile tea. Thank you to the plants for these altering of physiology and consciousness. But really, we're here to exist in an altered state. So, how did I come to this place of living an altered life? And I do want to say, even though I just mentioned plant medicines as kind of a brief example of the ways that this world can alter us and our consciousness, I am not talking about this episode in any way, shape, or form needing anything to elevate our experience, to expand our experience. Everything that I'm going to speak of is just from awareness and recognition. No enhancements of anything needed beyond our own mind, because quite frankly, there's nothing more powerful than the mind, our human mind. When I first started to sit down with this idea of at the altar of your own life a couple of years ago, what came up was an acknowledgement and an honoring that there was a daily, hourly, half hour, every 15 minutes, every minute, whatever the time, or whatever the experience, the exchange that I was currently in, that there's an acknowledging and an honoring so that I could come into right relationship consciously. For me, there was a recognition that I was not in right relationship because most of the things that I interacted with and had an exchange with throughout my day was unconscious and taken for granted. Most people, when they think about this coming into right relationship, you automatically probably think people, other people, because they're, they have the same exchange as another human. But I'm talking about my relationship with the light switch. I'm talking about my relationship with the shower and the water that comes out of it. I'm talking about the things that I realized I'm taking for granted every single day, that just exist in my reality, and I don't even appreciate them or give thanks, let alone awareness and acknowledgement of the gifts that they provide in my life. Yes, we've heard about, giving thanks and, saying blessing and prayer, especially over food, and thanking the people who brought it to us, the farmers, the workers, yes, to the earth and how it's grown, and the nourishment of our body. That's a pretty common practice. Not a lot of people still do this, but it's an understood and common practice throughout history. But what about all the other things in my life? What about everything in my life? And so I started, if we go back to the light switch, I started going back to the light switch and noticing when I turned it on, there's light, and kind of sinking into this place of gratitude. I would suddenly find myself saying, thank you. I without you, I couldn't see right now. You actually illuminate my world. You literally illuminate my awareness of all the things around me. You illuminate and brighten my home. And all I have to do is flip this switch, and there it is. Instantaneous, almost magical. But there's been so much innovation and technology that has brought this to me, and all the circuitry and everything behind the scenes that's happening, that's going on, that I never think about. And I've never, ever even thought about the fact that light is on and off and on and off all throughout my day as I want it to be, as I command it to be. And I've never even paid attention. I just completely take it for granted that I have power, that I pay the power bill, and that I have power, that I'm connected to this grid, to this electricity. And I'm never complaining about it, because it's always there. It's always there whenever I want it. And this recognition that, there's a lot of people on the planet that don't have this. They don't have, one, power, or two, reliable power, either because it's just not accessible or because of finances. So, there's no power today because couldn't pay the bills. And here it is, just I take it for granted. And because I've been taking it for granted, I'm out of right relationship because I have no honoring and no respect for the fact that there is this technology that creates a vibration of illumination and radiance in my home so that I can see and do the things that I want to do at the flip of a switch. I've been out of right relationship because at some point I forgot to notice this anymore. So you can see how that's different than just a traditional gratitude practice, which in and of itself, yes, if you don't have that practice, please begin it. It can change your life, truly. But with this, there's not just the thanking, but the recognition of what it creates in my world. And not just what it creates in my world and does for me, but what it is. And everything that has gone behind it and has come before that, all the advancements that have brought it to this current place in my reality. And that light itself is a mystery in science. It's fascinating. I mean, people study light, and it really is just this aspect of magic. And here it is at my switch. All day, every day, I am a magician. Flip on, flip off. So this is, that practice is my way, and it only takes a couple of seconds of altering my life, putting that light in its appropriate framework and exaltation of what it is, because truly everything around us has a kind of consciousness, whether it's alive, because we get it. We're like, oh, plants also can kind of interact with us, and, plants do things when we sing to them. But it's not just these living things, it's everything. It's everything has a kind of consciousness. And I feel that we're out of relationship, right relationship, kind relationship with these things. And that once we start to shift our mind and recognize that we've been, I don't know, I want to say ignoring, but that's not quite it. I guess just that we have not had in our awareness that there is even a relationship there to be had, because we only see relationship as other human beings, and sometimes not even with other human beings. Let's really be honest. So it's about coming into right relationship with the things around you, all the things around you, all the experiences throughout your day, that you take a moment and honor and acknowledge them for what they truly are. And at its most basic level, you can just say, oh, thank you. Thank you for such and such and such. But see if you can go further and beyond that. Because we are in a relationship with the things around us. There's a constant giving and receiving of energy, of vibration, with all things. And to other people, and also to self. So another aspect of altered living, altered life, is taking it back to that Ayurvedic perspective, that it's not what, but how we're going about our days. So once we start recognizing and acknowledging the things around us, and I was going back through my Instagram feed to see, like, I'd done some posts about different things, and some of them were like, at the altar of winter, at the altar of early mornings, at the altar of aging. But I'd also done this practice with the shower, at the altar of my shower, at the altar of my car, at the altar, just anything, all the things. When you get into this practice, it's about how you're relating to them, how you're relating to yourself as you navigate through this planetary structure, I guess, this planetary structure, this planetary grid, and all the constructs of this reality. How matters more than what. That's what relationship is. It's how. How are you exchanging with everything around you, not just the people? And my guess is, if you're having trouble with the people, you're probably also having trouble with your own self, and oblivious to the things around you that are also out of right relationship. The how matters more than the what, because it's a vibration. It's a vibration. It starts from the invisible and moves into your 3D reality. It's an emanation, a vibration. It's coming from your mind and how you experience it, something. Your appreciation of it, your gratitude of it, what it gives you, what you can give back to it. All of these things come into how. How are you relating with your day-to-day experience and existence through time and space, through the things in your home, in your car, in your work environment, in your gym that you go to? How? And then specifically speaking to the starseeds, it's really hard to have a good life and to enjoy this human experience when we're so frustrated by everything around us because we don't get it, we don't understand it. It feels so dense and hard, and we're out of relationship with it. We're resenting the human experience and complaining about it. So the vibration already is off. And my call is to say, put it on a pedestal. Put everything in this human earth plane on a pedestal to say, yes, thank you. Put it on that altered experience. And what happens when you start to do this is it's like in the yogic philosophy, and I've seen it elsewhere, this idea of root to rise, that you go down in order to go high, and even higher, and even higher. You root in order to rise. And so this action of having an awareness of the things around you and your experiences and movements and interactions and exchanges throughout the day, that these are the small, banal and mundane and routine exchanges, and that when you bring this perspective of altering them, that you then transform them through your mindset, through your perspective, through your vibration and emanation, that then you transform them. And it is still something that you do as routine, the banality, the mundane, but it also becomes the ritual and the bliss and the magic. And it's the heaven on earth, and the earth is heaven. It's both of them simultaneously. so that you're rooting and getting down into the nitty-gritty so that you can rise and have this blissed out experience on the earth plane. And even as I'm speaking of this, I'm not saying that it's a way of escaping, that it's not a way of turning away and not seeing the hard things, because when you're here on this earth plane, there are the challenges, and that's part of what we're here for as well. But it does mean that the things that we take for granted begin to shift and transform, and we start to see them in a very different way, and they become a part of our elevated experience. And they also become a part of our support as we navigate these challenges and difficulties on the planet. That as we alter our life, we begin to enjoy our life because we're in joy of our life, because of the gratitude and because of the recognition and the honoring, the appreciating and the seeing all of the things. So I'd like to ask you, if it has never occurred to you, then this is a great time as we're moving into this winter, this quiet, introspective time before the new year. And as we shift into the new year, what are some ways that you have been, or just the recognition that you haven't at all ever thought about this, and some ways that you can start to alter your life and alter the things around you, be it the rain, the mug that holds your morning beverage, the laptop that you work on, your phone, social media, be it your alarm clock, whatever the thing, whatever the experience. It's bringing up that I used to do this about my car, that every single morning I go out and my car starts. I don't even have to think about it. Thank you. And then, I go on that whole thing of, appreciating the car. And, I actually like that people name their car, because it puts them into a relationship with the car, an exchange to say, you take me places. Thank you. Anyway, so begin thinking about, reflecting upon, and calling in intentions of how you can have an altered life. That there is heaven and earth, magical and mundane, bliss and banal, ritual and routine. That this life is a blessing, and that the day is your dharma. Until next time. Remember that spirit guides but never decides. How will you choose this hour, this day, this week at the altar of your life? Thank you so much for listening. If you feel called, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it. Also, connect with me and discover more on Instagram at Amaryllis_Fernandez. Until next time.